Hello and welcome to the Student Organization Risk Management Training hosted by the Office of Student Involvement. My name is Lauren Hill, Director of Student Involvement. So why are we here today? As a result of attending this risk management training, you should be able to, by the end of this training, be able to understand why organizations are required to attend risk management training annually, recognize the state-mandated risk management training topics, list the 5 types of risk, identify resources on campus to help manage risk, and apply the knowledge and resources gained here to minimize risks within your organization. We're here today as well on behalf of Clay R. Warren of Plainview, Texas, who in 2002 was a college freshman attending Texas Tech University. Clay had attended an organization event held in Canyon, Texas with several other members, and on their way back to Lubbock, the car they were riding in was involved in a car accident. Clay suffered massive head injuries from the car accident and was transported to UMC, where he later passed away from his injuries. As a result of Clay's death, his parents, with help from the local and state representatives, authored legislation to require statewide risk management training for all members and advisors of student organizations at both public and private universities within the state. Their goal of this training was to prevent accidents like Clay's from happening again. This training took effect on September 1st of 2007, and it's known as Texas Senate Bill 1138 or HB 2639. This law is also officially known as the Clay R. Warren Bill. Texas Tech University is legally obligated to provide student organization leaders and advisors with the training and information within this presentation. You might think something of like what happened to Clay couldn't possibly happen to you or one of your friends, but it happened to one of our own Red Raiders. By actively engaging with this content here in the presentation, hopefully you will be equipped to ensure the safety and effectiveness of your organization and its members, as well as help to take a large step in fulfilling your legal obligation as a student organization officer within Texas Tech. With the proper planning, accidents like Clay's and accidents of various natures can be prevented. Per Texas Senate Bill 1138, or the Clay R. Warren Bill as we just mentioned, these are issues that are required to be addressed in student organization risk management training. Once again, a reminder, this is state law. This does not just only apply to individuals here at Texas Tech. This is something done across the state of Texas that all college students who are members or officers of a student organization are required to attend and have this risk management training that cover the following topics. Topic 1, possession and use of alcoholic beverages and illegal drug use. Topic 2 is hazing. Topic 3 is sexual abuse and harassment. Topic 4, fire safety and other safety issues, i.e. possession of or use of a firearm, other weapons, and/or explosive devices. Travel, behavior at parties and other events held by student organizations, adoption of a risk management policy by a student organization, and disability support. We're now going to review what are the 5 main broad categories that risk can fall into. These 5 categories include physical, reputational, emotional, financial, and a facilities risk. Physical risk is our first category. It refers to bodily injuries that occur as a result of participating in an event or activity, either directly or indirectly. An example includes injuries resulting from physical activities from a travel-related accident, or an indirect example is that such as food poisoning from an event. Reputational risk refers to incidents that can lead to the negative publicity for a student organization, its advisor, or the university itself. This will include defamation, such as side effects from an article published in a student newspaper or comments made on various platforms such as social media. Also note, this is the hardest type of risk to repair. Our third category is emotional risk, which refers to incidents that can lead a participant attending an event to feel the following ways: either alienated by the group, or it is a risk that negatively impacts the feelings of members of the institutional community. Our next category is financial risk, refers to occurrences that can negatively impact the fiscal stability of the student organization and other organizations that support an event. This can result from paying for damages incurred by an organization or an entity sponsored by the organization, any breach of contract, the cancellation of an event, or poor accounting and lack of transparency with your organizational funds. Our last category is a facilities risk. This refers to incidents that may cause property damage or prevent an event from taking place, such as inclement weather, lack of space, property damage caused by attending individuals or vendors, or facilities access and facility safety. Throughout this presentation, you will notice intersections of these 5 types of risks. It's important to consider all foreseeable scenarios and have a plan of action in place to handle any range of risk-related issues. It's important to note that good risk management is a university-wide effort that requires everyone to participate. Risk management is a culture. Within student organizations and campus life, establishing and sustaining this culture of risk management and the habits to help sustain it should be our collective goal. Culture applied to student organizations and campus life means that every staff member, student organization member, and advisor needs to believe that risk is inherent in the work that they do and behave appropriately in response to that belief. 2 of the most prevalent factors that cause risk management issues in student organizations are overconfidence and underexperience. The key to having a solid risk management system for student organizations is to practice humility. As a student organization, there are 5 general steps you can take to manage the risks that student organizations could take in their activities. For any event or function, step 1, let's identify the potential areas of concern or possible risks that are inherent. The task in this step is to develop a complete list of all activities taking place in an event and determine the risk involved with each activity. Step 2 is assess. Assess the possible impact of these concerns. In this step, your goal is to determine the relationship between the likelihood and the consequences of the risks you identified in step 1. Step 3, plan. You should plan for as many of these possibilities. Create plans of action to address these areas of concern. This step asks you to determine what your options are for managing all pieces of risks. The main question is to ask what measures can be put in place to reduce the likelihood that an incident will occur, which should help your chance of risk occurring. Step 4, you should implement and monitor your plan of action. After determining that you can safely proceed with your event or activity, the next step is to put your risk management measures into place. And step 5, your last step, is to evaluate. You should evaluate the results of your action plan. After the activity or event is completed, it's time to now sit down and consider the strengths and weaknesses of your plan. Analyze the details of any events that might have actually occurred during your event, and analyze whether the plan was successful or not, and how you can also make an improvement for the next time you host a similar event. Our first topic or type of risk here that is inherent on campus is possession and use of alcoholic beverages and illegal drugs. Texas Tech University's policy on alcoholic beverages, we define misconduct as unlawful or unauthorized possession, use, distribution, delivery, or sales of alcohol and/or public intoxication, consumption that endangers oneself, or operating a vehicle while intoxicated or under the influence of alcohol. This can be found via Part 1, Section B, Misconduct, Number 3 within the Student Code of Conduct. I now want to take a moment and real quick talk about the 911 Lifeline Law, otherwise known as Texas Senate Bill 1331. This law was passed by the Texas legislature in 2011, and this law states that a person who's under 21 will not be charged by the police for possessing or consuming alcohol if that individual calls 911 because someone might be suffering from alcohol poisoning. This law came into effect because of the loss of Carson Starkey of Austin, Texas, who died December 8, 2008. He was a student at California Polytechnic State University and passed away from alcohol poisoning. Carson at the time was 18 years old and finishing his first semester at college. After participating in a hazing ritual where Carson was instructed to consume vast amounts of alcohol, he lost consciousness and was showing multiple signs of alcohol poisoning. However, his fraternity brothers did not call to help assist Carson because they feared they would get in trouble for their own use of alcohol. Had help been called, Carson could have been provided life-saving medical attention. But fearing the consequences, Carson's peers did not call for help. The result sadly caused his death and the death of their fraternity brother. The bottom line here is that if you believe someone is suffering from alcohol poisoning, get them help, regardless of if you or them are underage or if you or them have been drinking or not. Drinking underage should not be a reason for not providing care to members of our organizations and other individuals here at Texas Tech University. The 911 Lifeline Law says the following: this limited immunity applies only to the first person to call for medical assistance. The caller also must remain on the scene until medical assistance arrives. The caller must cooperate with EMS and law enforcement. And Section 3 of this law also provides that university, aka Texas Tech University, will provide educational options in lieu of conducting proceedings in certain situations. For example, students involved in a situation report to Texas Tech Conduct and are assigned to complete alcohol awareness trainings by standard type training intervention, a bystander training, which is provided by RISE. When we have social events, we should consider that alcohol could be present, and we should prepare for the inherent risk that comes with the consumption of alcohol or use of substances. Following an event planning process will help the distribution and consumption of alcoholic beverages. A scenario example to think of is tailgating for Texas Tech football games or hosting an award banquet. So first thing first, your step 1 should be think about goal setting. Encompasses the defining event goals and determining the needs and interests the event will serve. So what is the goal of our organizations participating in this tailgate? What are the needs and interests, and does participating in this tailgate fulfill that? Setting a higher purpose for the event to shift the focus away from unhealthy or unsafe activities or behaviors helps you to remove this inherent risk. Step 2, event development. Focusing on the logistics of the event is key to help managing the risk. Determine the event budget. The use of third-party vendors versus a bring-your-own-beer event will help you to determine what kind of inherent risk you have. Also, the cost of paying for an external venue versus, again, allowing for a BYOB event. Determine your funding resources. Be knowledgeable about your funding restrictions as well. University funding cannot be used for the purchasing of alcohol. Determine then too the target audience and any attendance restrictions. Think of your guest and crowd management, your door and gate management, tracking your admission as well as capacity of the event, how much your facility can hold in terms of people. This decision on the presence of minors and distinguishing minors from non-minors. Think example, X's on hands, wristbands, or other ways to determine who is of drinking age and who is not. Student involvement staff is happy to help you support in this role because step 3, meeting with supportive campus resources, we are here to help you. We're always open for meetings to help you plan and review risk assessment plans. Step 4 is your risk assessment. Determine the potential risks involved with the event, risks surrounding alcohol consumption, anything and everything having to do with that. Step 5, seek final approval. Ensure that this event has been reviewed by anyone who has to sign off on this event, such as potentially your advisor or an office or department in which you're partnering for this event. Step 6, have a great event in which hopefully you do not have any issues and you are able to adhere to your risk management plan and not have any risky situations arise. And step 7, post an event evaluation. We highly suggest after having any kind of event that you review how the event went. Did something occur? Were there ways that this could have been bypassed and not happen? Are there ways that we can help have more preventative measures in force for next time? Continuing with the Social Event Planning Guide, the Social Event Planning Guide gives suggestions on how to monitor the distribution and consumption of alcohol at an event. As mentioned, BYOB, this is a method that allows attendees to bring their own alcohol. While there is inherently more risk involved with BYOB, this method can be executed safely. Some suggestions are as followed. Quantity limits, such as only allowing 6 12-ounce cans or containers of a beverage to be brought. Limits on the type of alcohol, such as prohibiting hard liquor and only allowing beer and wine. Prohibiting cases of alcohol, such as 12 packs or 30 packs of beverages. Prohibiting other alcoholic paraphernalia, such as beer bongs, party balls, pitchers, tumblers, borgs, etc. Prohibiting drinking games that encourage inappropriate drinking behaviors. Mandating BYOB'd beverages are checked and put into a centralized distribution area, and a punch card system is used to acquire another beverage each time. Additionally, and alternatively, there is the third-party vendor method. This method is inherently more controlled and therefore provides better natural risk management, as vendors require contracts for their labor and alcohol must be distributed by licensed individuals. This offers only one centralized location for the distribution of alcoholic beverages, prevents overserving, prevents minors from being overserved or served at all, and as well, the vendor must be licensed to sell and serve alcohol within the state, county, and/or city. The organization must obtain a copy of the license from the vendor as well. And the vendor must have a minimum of $1 million general liability insurance and name the organization as an additionally insured certificate holder. The organization must obtain a copy of the vendor's certificate of insurance, and the organization and vendor must agree to a cash or credit per drink sales only to off-cage individuals. The organization must have reviewed the contract and the organization's policies with the vendor. Additionally, another suggestion for planning an event involving alcohol is managing the door. This way you can card everyone who enters to the event, ensuring that they are of legal drinking age. You're then able to mark participants who are under the age of 21, for example with an X or a wristband. Also, by using the managing the door method, if you are doing a BYOB event, you can check coolers and containers at this time to ensure the rules are being adhered to. You can also manage entry and exit of the event. Also, managing the bar, both a BYOB and vendor method. Who will now manage this distribution center, aka the bar? Prohibiting attendees from being inside the distribution center will allow for there to be less risk. Where will this bar be located is something to think about. Who will work it? Who are your bartenders? Bartenders and monitors should always be sober and never new members to the organization. Also, to think about how many drinks can a bartender serve one individual at a time to ensure there's no over-serving. How will drinks be checked in or collected? Will you use a ticket system or a punch card system? Member and guest management. Monitoring guests is a proactive method to minimizing risk before it happens. Monitors are charged with regulating the event and maintaining the risk management and social event planning guide. Monitors should never consume alcohol leading up to the event or during the event. They should be sober. Monitoring guests to ensure they are only drinking the alcohol they brought or checked in, that is a wonderful thing that they should be doing. Monitors should also manage entrances and exits to the event other than the main door to ensure that no one's sneaking in or sneaking out of the event. Monitors should also help to manage the event capacity, ensuring that we're not allowing in too many individuals than the facility can allow for. You should always have one monitor that is the main leader, and there should be one sober monitor for every 15 guests. Monitors should be older members of the organization. Again, never a new member. Monitors should also have a distinguishable feature about them during the event that marks them as an official monitor of the event. This way, they know who is in charge and running the event. Additionally, providing transportation for intoxicated guests, designated drivers, or transportation services, we will help you with that information later. Next, we would like to discuss the Texas TAC policy on narcotics or drugs. Texas Tech policy defines misconduct as possession, use, sharing, furnishing, or distribution of illegal drugs, intoxicants, controlled substances, and drug paraphernalia, including the distribution, use, or possession of prescription medications contrary to a valid prescription, being under the influence of illegal drugs, intoxicants, and/or controlled substances. This can be found under Part 1, Section B of Misconduct Number 4. If you are caught in possession of one of these controlled substances in Texas, you could face one of several of the following penalties. The severity of your sentencing will vary depending on the type of drug or drugs you are caught with, how much of the drug or drugs you have, whether the evidence determines you have intent to deliver or traffic these drugs, whether a minor was present on the premises where the offense was committed. Penalties for drug possession in the state of Texas are classified as either a felony or misdemeanor. Drug possession penalties are categorized into 4 penalty groups based on the drug's classification. In addition to Texas penalties for possession and use of illegal substances, Texas Tech University also has university penalties that range from a reprimand to expulsion, which will stay on your student record. Texas Tech also provides resources to assist students in a time of need. Raider Ride is an evening transportation service provided through Texas Tech Transportation and Parking Services. Students can request a ride through the Tap Ride app or by calling 806-742-RIDE. Shuttles will run 7 days a week from 6 p.m. to 2:45 in the morning when classes are in session. Shuttles can run anywhere within the Lubbock city limits. If the ride is on an on-campus location, the ride is free. If the ride starts at an off-campus location and ends at an off-campus location, it is $5 per rider. RISE is the Central Office for Prevention, Education, and the Promotion of Well-Being at Texas Tech University. RISE educates on the topics of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs, bystander intervention, campus safety, consent and sexual assault prevention, coping with stress, healthy relationships, mental health, sexual health, and suicide prevention. The RISE office employs a team of students called the RISE Peer Educators, who promote well-being and education to the student body through outreach, programming, and events, and facility workshops. RISE Peer Educators are a resource for your organization members. The Office of Dean of Students. This office focuses on matters that affect student life, student success, and student learning. The Dean of Students office works to support students during times of crisis and assists in the resolving of student concerns. If you're ever concerned for another student or a fellow organization member, know that a Student of Concern report is a great way to share your concerns and get this student help. Remember, when in doubt, submit a report. The Raider Assistance Program. This program is offered through Student Health Services. The Raider Assistant Program provides a safe and confidential place for students to address questions and concerns they have regarding alcohol and other drugs. The services that Raider Assistance Program provides include assessment, education, and treatment referrals. The Student Counseling Center is another free resource to students that focuses on mental health care. Services the Counseling Center offers include individual and couples counseling, online counseling assistance, group counseling, biofeedback personal coaching, and manage your mood skill building groups. Lastly, the Couple, Marriage, and Family Therapy Clinic in the College of Human Sciences is another mental health care resource open to students. This service is not free to students, but is a service provided on a sliding scale structure. Services offered at the Couple, Marriage, and Family Therapy Clinic address depression and anxiety, grief and loss, school problems, family concerns, and a range of other topics. The second topic of risk we will cover today is hazing. Texas Tech policy on hazing. Texas Tech policy defines hazing misconduct as hazing is the intentional, knowing, or reckless act directed against a student by one person acting alone or by more than one person occurring on or off university premises for the purpose of pledging or associating with, being initiated into, affiliating with, holding office in, seeking and or maintaining membership in any organization whose membership consists of primarily students. Consent and/or acquiescence by a student or students subjected to hazing is not a reasonable defense in a disciplinary proceeding. This can be found via the Student Code of Conduct, Part 1, Section 2, under Misconduct, Letter J. Know that hazing includes, but is not limited to, any type of physical brutality, such as whipping, beating, using a harmful substance on the body, or a similar activity. Any type of activity that subjects a student to an unreasonable risk of harm or that adversely affects the mental or physical health or safety of a student, such as humiliation, sleep deprivation, exposure to the elements, confinement, personal servitude, or calisthenics. Any activity that involves consumption of a food, liquid, alcoholic beverage, liquor, drug, or other substance which subjects a student to unreasonable risk of harm, or which adversely affects the mental or physical health or safety of this student. Any activity that induces, causes, or requires a student to perform a duty or coerces a student to perform a duty or task that involves drug, alcoholic beverage, liquor, in any amount that would lead to a reasonable person to believe the student is intoxicated. Any activity in which a person solicits, encourages, directs, aids, or attempts to aid in engaging in hazing. It is also intentionally, knowing, or recklessly permitting hazing to occur. It is hazing first-hand knowledge of the planning of a specific hazing incident has occurred or may occur. It is witnessing or participating in a specific hazing incident and knowingly failing to report the incident in writing to the Office of Student Conduct. Any activity in which hazing is either condoned or encouraged, or any action by an officer or combination of members, pledges, associates, or alumni of an organization committing or assisting in the commission of hazing. Any activity that involves coercing a student or students to consume an alcoholic beverage, liquor, drug, or creates an environment in which a student feels coerced to consume these substances. There are also different levels and degrees of hazing, and hazing can be direct or indirect. The above examples are just a few examples of actions that constitute as hazing. If we think of hazing activities on a scale of 1 to 10, which 1 is being low end and 10 being near the top or high end of the scale, we're better able to understand the severity of hazing acts. Running errands could begin near a level 1 hazing continuum. It's low, it's small, it's not that big a deal, but it could escalate to something larger. Whereas something like forced alcohol consumption and bodily harm starts at that higher end of the hazing continuum and is something to be thinking of very, very seriously and is a very large concern as well. Overhearing or listening to plans for an event where activities at that event could constitute as hazing might seem closer to the level 1 of that scale, but the person who ends up participating in that hazing activity at the event might experience something, though, much higher on that scale. So again, we might hear something and not think it's a big deal, but it very much so is something to take serious and could be much more concerning. Encouraging members to just go through with an activity that is hazing because everyone else is doing it, or because it's an organization's tradition, or it really doesn't even seem that serious, really could truly end up falling on the higher end of that scale for both the direct and indirect acts of hazing. Lastly, not reporting an act of hazing is an indirect act of hazing itself that could fall on the higher end of this scale, as the effects of allowing that hazing to happen rather than stepping in to stop that hazing has a heavier impact on the participants involved. You should also know that hazing is a crime within the state of Texas. Committing an act of hazing could cost an individual or the organization a fine ranging anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000 and could also result in jail time ranging from 180 days to 2 years. What you see on the slide are the legal consequences for individuals convicted of hazing offenses. If the entire organization or a section of organizational membership is convicted of hazing offenses, there are other penalties. If the offense is found to have harmed another individual student in light of hazing, the charges are considered misdemeanors, and the whole organization will be charged between $5,000 to $10,000. If these actions cause a personal injury, extreme damages, or irreplaceable loss, it's punishable by a fine of $5,000 or double to the amount of the loss. To prevent hazing, we must reflect on, analyze, and evaluate our organization's core values. As a student organization leader, it is your job to ensure that our organization's values are reflected in our traditions, practices, events, and behaviors. Ultimately, our organization should promote belonging and well-being in a safe and inclusive environment. The National Study of Student Hazing in 2008 reported that members of organizations and many groups that haze expect positive outcomes from their hazing activities, such as having a stronger connection to the group, feeling a sense of accomplishment by proving themselves, earning their place, or feeling worthy of membership in the group, as well as building unity and trust among the group's members. However, these desirable incomes are all achievable without hazing, and research shows that hazing can actually undermine your mission of your organization and the purpose of your organization. The collaboration and acceptance of common goals and activities can reinforce the group's team's shared identities much better than the use of hazing. Hazing can also affect the 5 types of risk. Physical, someone can get hurt if you haze. Emotional, hazing can affect a member's emotional well-being. Reputational, this can cause negative publicity for your organization and cause it to be shuttered or shut down. It can also cause loss of membership. Financial, hazing can bring about lawsuits and an increase in insurance premiums and payment of fines. And finally, facilities, hazing can cause for there to be property damage and a need for a replacement of property. Please know that here on campus there are organization resources for you, such as the Dean of Students Office, our Office of Student Involvement, as well as Rader's Report. Our third risk topic is sexual abuse and harassment. When people think of sexual assault, they might most commonly think of rape. However, sexual assault falls into multiple categories. At Texas Tech, all sexual assaults, harassment, inappropriate touching, are all classified as sexual misconduct. Think of sexual misconduct as the umbrella term for sexual assaults. Sexual misconduct is broken down now into 4 categories. Our first category is sexual harassment, which is the unwelcome verbal, written, or physical conduct of a sexual nature that is sufficiently severe, persistent, or pervasive that it unreasonably interferes with the victim's educational experience or creates a hostile educational environment. Our second category is sexual exploitation, which is the taking of non-consensual or abusive sexual advantage of another for the benefit of oneself or a third party. Prohibited behavior includes, but is not limited to, photography or video recording of another person in a sexual, intimate, or private act without that person's full knowledge and consent, purposeful distribution or dissemination of sexual or intimate images or recordings of another person without that person's full knowledge and consent, sexual voyeurism, the exposure of genitals or private areas, prostituting another student, and engaging in unprotected sexual activity while knowingly infected with an STI without the other participating party's knowledge or consent. Our third category is public indecency, which is the engaging in private or sexual acts in a publicly viewable location, such that it is offensive to accepted standards of decency, for example, public urination or public sex acts. Sexual assault now, our last category, can fall into 2 subcategories. The first being non-consensual sexual contact, which is the intentional sexual touching, however slight, and with any object or one's body, of another person's private areas without consent. Private areas include the butt, breasts, mouth, genitals, groin area, or other bodily orifice. The second subcategory of sexual assault includes non-consensual sexual intercourse, which is the sexual penetration or intercourse, however slight, and with any object without consent. Penetration can be oral, anal, or vaginal. Domestic violence, a felony or misdemeanor crime of violence committed by a current or former spouse or intimate partner of the victim. By a person with whom the victim shares a child in common, by a person who is cohabitating or has cohabitated with the victim as a spouse or intimate partner, or by a person similarly situated to a spouse of the victim under the domestic or family violence laws of the jurisdiction in which the crime of the violence occurred. Or this can also be committed by any other person against an adult or youth victim who is protected from that person's acts under the domestic or family violence laws of the jurisdiction in which the violent crime occurred. Dating violence. Dating violence is committed by a person who is or has been in a social relationship of a romantic or intimate nature with the victim. The existence of such a relationship shall be determined based on the reporting party's statement, with consideration of the length of the relationship, the type of relationship, and the frequency of interaction between the persons involved in the relationship. Consent. Consent is defined by Texas Tech University. The term consent means mutually understandable words or actions, actively communicated both knowingly and voluntarily, that clearly convey permission for a specific activity. This can be found under Part 1, Section D, Period 1, Definitions C. Before engaging in any type of sexual activity, it is the initiator's responsibility to obtain their partner's consent, either verbally or non-verbally. Silence cannot be assumed to be express consent, and saying no is not the only way a sexual partner may communicate their lack of consent. A partner may use verbal cues or nonverbal cues to indicate their lack of consent for any sexual activity. A partner could use nonverbal cues to indicate their lack of consent for any sexual activity, and some examples can include, but are not limited to, resistance, such as pushing hands away or pulling away from their partner, their body going limp or freezing up, crying, or wincing. Please also know, consent is not effective when it results from any of the following: a use of physical force, a threat of physical force, intimidation or coercion, or incapacitation, such as they are asleep, they have succumbed to alcohol use or any other drugs. Think of incapacitation as any other factor that would eliminate the individual's ability to exercise their own free will to choose whether or not to engage in sexual activity. When thinking about consent, it's also best to think of the acronym known as FRIES. Consent equals French fries, y'all. So F, it is freely given. Consent is freely given. It is a choice made without pressure, without manipulation, without being under the influence of any substance. R, it's reversible. Anyone can change their mind about what they feel like doing at any time. Even if the actions have been performed before, consent is still reversible. I, informed. True consent can only happen with full transparency. For example, saying protection or contraceptives will be used, but then they are not, you have not informed your sexual partner fully. E, enthusiastic. You should only ever engage in sexual acts that you truly want to engage in. Consent is not performing actions you feel like you are expected to do. S, specific. Saying yes to one action does not mean that you're saying yes to any other action. Ultimately, the individual gets final say over what happens to their own body. Consent is never implied, and it can be reversed. Consent is transparent. Texas Tech University provides campus resources to assist students and student organizations with education, reporting, and advocacy for the preventing and addressing of sexual misconduct. The RISE office offers workshops over sexual assault prevention, bystander intervention, healthy relationships, sexual health, and alcohol and other drug misuse prevention. These workshops are available to your organization. All you have to do is contact the RISE office to coordinate these educational opportunities, and you can do so via the QR code listed here. The Office of Civil Rights and Sexual Misconduct, the Title IX office, also provides supportive measures to students who are involved with incidents of sexual misconduct. These offices also provide students the space to report Title IX or misconduct violations. The office can support complaints with the formal grievance process. Additionally, the Office of Dean of Students provides a space to report any students of concerns and collaborates with these two additional offices to provide support and resources. Please know that Texas Tech University also recognizes these additional forms of misconduct. Stalking. A course of conduct directed at a specific person that would cause another person to fear for their safety or the safety of others, or would cause the person to suffer substantial emotional distress. A course of conduct means two or more acts where a person directly or indirectly, or through third parties, by any action or method follows, monitors, observes, surveils, threatens, or communicates to or about a person, or interferes with a person's property. Substantial emotional distress means significant mental suffering or anguish that may require medical or other professional treatment or counseling. Retaliatory discrimination or harassment. Any intentional adverse action taken by an individual or allied third party, absent legitimate non-discriminatory purposes, against a participant or supporter of a participant in a conduct process, civil rights grievance proceeding, or any other protected activity. Discriminatory harassment. Conduct based on a student's sex, race, national origin, religion, disability, sexual orientation, gender, or other protected categories, classes, or characteristics that is sufficiently severe, persistent, or pervasive, that it adversely affects the victim's education or creates an intimidating, hostile, abusive, or offensive educational environment, which interferes with the student's ability to realize the intended benefits of the university's resources or opportunities. Complacency. Assisting via acts or by admission of another student, individual, or group in committing or attempting to commit a violation of the student code of conduct. Complicity with or failure of any organized group to address known or obvious violations of the student code of conduct by its members, specifically actions against members of the university community. Any person who is knowingly present for the commissions of a violation of the student code of conduct and does not take steps to remove themselves from the location of the violation. Bullying or cyberbullying. Repeated or severe aggressive behaviors that intimidate or intentionally harm or control another person physically or emotionally. Activities protected by freedoms of expression will not be considered violations of the student code of conduct. Our fourth topic of risk is fire and other safety issues. Fire is a risk in every building. When considering facilities and physical risk, we must consider fire safety within the building in which we are hosting an event. Here are some fire safety tips to follow when planning an organization event. Prior to the start of the event and during the event, locate all exits and ensure that the exits are marked. Do this while you are setting up for your event. Ensure that the doors can easily be opened from the inside, that they do not require a key to be opened, and that there are at least 2 ways to enter and exit every room in the facility. Ensure there are clear paths towards the exits. In case a fire does start, people will need to evacuate quickly, so ensure there's nothing blocking their path. Do not exceed the maximum capacity of a facility being used. If you have questions about a capacity of a room or a facility being used, make sure you contact the fire marshal listed. If you're working with fire for an event or anything that could catch fire, such as an outdoor grill, fire pit, fire ring, or bonfire, then it would be a good idea to have a fire extinguisher available on site. A Class A fire extinguisher is needed when using a grill, fire pit, fire ring, or bonfire. For indoor events, it is always smart to locate all fire extinguishers, and it is good to know about city codes that prohibit any type of fire, such as an open flame in residential or open flames in city limits as well. Ensure that you also designate a location to meet outside of a building or away from an outdoor fire. This way, once outside or away from the fire, you will be able to conduct a roll call to verify that everyone has made it to safety. Additionally, ensure that you remain outside or away from the fire until notified by the fire department that it is safe to return to the building or area. It is estimated that there are 3,800 fires at schools or universities per the U.S. Fire Administration. And from January 2000 to 2018, 92 fatal fires have been documented to have occurred on a college campus, Greek housing, off-campus housing, or surrounding area having to do with a university or college. Sadly, these fires have claimed a total of 132 victims per the Center for Campus Fire Safety. Firearms, weapons, and explosives. Texas Tech's policy defines misconduct as follows: illegal or unauthorized possession of firearms, explosives, or other weapons, or dangerous chemicals, or use of any item in a manner that attempts to harm others. This can be found in Part 1, Section B, Misconduct, Number 6. Campus carry policy. The state of Texas does allow people to carry handguns on their person. Likewise, Texas Tech University also has a campus carry policy. Texas House Bill 910 passed in 2016, legalizing the open carry of handguns in Texas for individuals who have a concealed handgun license. However, this law allowed institutions of higher education, such as Texas Tech University, to create exceptions and policy that fits the individual campus environment. Texas Senate Bill 11 also allows people to carry concealed handguns on academic campuses, but again, the law allows for higher institutions such as Texas Tech to have discretion in tailoring this policy to the campus environment. On September 1st, 2001, Texas signed into law the Constitutional Carry Law. This law modified the 2016 House Bill 910 Open Carry Law by allowing individuals over the age of 21 to either openly carry or conceal carry a handgun in a holster without any permit to carry. How does this then affect Texas Tech University's campus carry policy? It does not, because as a higher education entity, we have discretion and the ability to tailor our own policy per our campus environment. To carry a handgun on Texas Tech University campus, the following must be met according to Operating Policy 1022. The carrier must have a valid LTC or CHL or license to carry and concealed handgun license. The weapon must be concealed at all times. The handgun may never be openly carried. The carrier must, by law, adhere to Penal Code 30.06 as the responsibility for following lawful exclusionary zones on the permit holder. Permit holders are not required to disclose the license to anyone other than the law enforcement, and the university will not maintain a list of permit holders, as this is not public information. The only type of firearm allowed to be carried on campus is a handgun. Per Penal Code 46.035 and 30.07, open carry of a handgun is never allowed. Regarding exclusionary zones, the university president is the only person with the authority to declare a specific premise or venue as an exclusionary zone. Therefore, no faculty, staff, or student group of Texas Tech University can exclude a specific premise or venue as off-limits. Additionally, Texas statutes outside of Texas Government Code Section 411.2031 separately provide exclusions of certain premises or events. Under such law, concealed carry is prohibited from the following premises or locations: high school, collegiate, or professional sporting events, or interscholastic events, including Texas Tech University sporting events. This is where any UIL-sanctioned competition is being held. Additionally, other exclusionary events include any Board of Regents meeting, the Office of Student Conduct, or where any official governmental meeting or judicial proceeding is being conducted. Additionally, where any polling is being conducted for local, state, or federal elections. There are additional exclusions on Texas Tech campus, and they are as follow: the rec, the Kent R. Hance Chapel, any premise where professional counseling or services are provided, research labs, university events where alcohol is being served, performance venues and locations during a ticketed event, or other locations deemed off-campus by the university president. Regarding now an active shooter situation here on Texas Tech campus. The Center for Campus Life encourages student organizations to utilize resources provided by the Texas Tech University Police Department. TTUPD offers a recorded active shooter presentation on their website. TTUPD also offers in-person active shooter training. If you feel that your organization's members can benefit from a live active shooter training, you simply just need to reach out to TTUPD's Sergeant Clint Jackstas. Regarding an active shooter situation. Per the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, they suggest 3 steps to handling and reacting to an active shooter situation. Please note that these 3 small steps do not take the place of any in-depth training, and Campus Life again encourages you to employ the resources and services of Texas Tech University Police Department. This first step, evacuate if there is an accessible path. Evacuate the premise. The second step, hide out. If evacuation is not possible, find a place where the shooter is less likely to find you. Step 3, take action against the shooter. This is a last resort, one where life is in imminent danger or there is an attempt to disrupt or incapacitate the shooter. Again, this is only taken as a last resort. Our 5th topic of risk, travel. When you're traveling with your organization, it's smart to create a travel plan or travel itinerary. A travel plan can be used to organize pre-trip tasks, and a travel itinerary can be used to ensure the group is organized during the trip. It's also smart to create a post-travel plan to ensure you are organizing any documents, expenses, or funding receipts that need to be returned to offices on campus or to the organization's treasurer. When planning to travel with your organization, using the who, where, what, when, and how method of planning will help guarantee that planning is thoroughly completed. Who? Who is going on the trip? It is suggested that a roster of participants is used before the trip and during the trip. A roster of individuals participating in the trip helps to ensure that proper housing accommodations and travel accommodations are met and can help with the financial management of the trip as well. The roster is also helpful in any way if there's an emergency during this trip. The roster should include essential information of the people going on the trip, such as emergency contacts of them. Where? Where are we going? This is the destination of the trip, and how will the group arrive at this destination? If the group is traveling by vehicle, this is where the travel route will need to be considered, the type or types of vehicle that will be driven, and where rental vehicle accommodations will be made. If the group is flying, this is where all flight details will need to be kept and made. Housing accommodations are also considered in the where section of travel plans. What? What is the trip itinerary? The trip itinerary is the plan leading up to, leaving on the trip, and the plan that guides the group during your trip. It is suggested to use an itinerary template, which can be found online and downloaded. It's essential that travel itinerary be transparently communicated to all who are going on the trip for safety purposes. An itinerary can be as detailed as appropriate for the trip being planned. When? The when revolves around when the events on the trip are happening. Oftentimes, the when can be included in the what of the travel itinerary. Ideally, it is best practice to know when members will be driving, if traveling by vehicle. If traveling by plane, it's essential to know when flight times are to prepare for any cancellations or potential layovers. Intentionally planning when members of the group will be driving is crucial to ensuring that members are safe and are driving during a time that they are not going to be drowsy. How? The how revolves around the details of how you are traveling. If you're traveling by car, you need to know what your insurance covers and does not cover. It's important to realize that when using a personal vehicle, Texas Tech insurance does not cover travel in personal vehicles for student organizations. Therefore, if you would rather not have the liability fall on your personal insurance, you need to figure out how a rental car can be used, or you need to inquire about using a Texas Tech University vehicle. Additional to thinking of the who, where, what, when, and hows of the trip, you also want to assess the potential risks that could occur during this travel and the trip. You'll want to spend quality time identifying ways to minimize risks that could occur and develop a crisis plan for if any incidences do, in fact, occur. As you prepare for your upcoming trips, we encourage you to use the Office of Student Involvement as a planning resource. We will gladly meet with your organization to assist you with the creation of a travel plan and crisis plan. It's our top priority to assist our students in having a safe and enjoyable travel experience. Student Government Association and Student Organization Travel. Please note that the student organization support can help organizations travel as follows. They can provide financial support to organizations. They can provide transportation information. They can also help you understand the travel policy and operating policies. They can also help support you in finding a rental vehicle or fleet vehicle information. To receive any funding from a student government association, a student organization must be compliant with our Office of Student Involvement, complete the annual organization registration, and of course complete the annual risk management training. The Clery Act is a consumer protection law that federally mandates all institutions of higher education who participate in the federal student financial aid program to disclose campus crime statistics and other security information to the campus community and general public. The Clery Act was named in memory of Jean Clery, a first-year student attending Lehigh University. On April 5th of 1986, Jean was murdered by Joseph Henry, a fellow student that she did not know. Henry entered the building through a propped open door, as students often used boxes to prop open doors to their dorms so they could easily come and go. That night, Jean left her door unlocked for her roommate, who had misplaced her key and was in the middle of the night planning to come home. She was sadly awakened by Henry burglarizing her room. In 1987, the Clery family founded an initiative focused on campus security. In 1990, Congress enacted the Clery Act, which requires institutions of higher education to report campus crimes. The annual security report includes the university's policies concerning campus safety and crime prevention, sexual assault, alcohol and drugs, access to campus, and other important policies and safety information. Student organization travel also impacts Clery crime reporting. Anytime a student organization travels, a Clery form must be completed to document the occurrence of that trip, whether any Clery reportable crimes occur or not, at the event or in the lodging being utilized by a student organization. The Clery travel form can be accessed on the TTU Clery compliance webpage and/or the Title IX website. Topic 6. Behavior at parties and other events. Behavior at parties and other events is another topic that we must discuss. It is imperative that members of Texas Tech University student organizations and organization leaders remember that you all represent not only yourself and your organization, but organizations like yours across the nation, and you also represent Texas Tech University with your actions. Regardless of if an event or a trip is an official or unofficial event, student organization members inherently challenge reputational risk on a daily basis through their behaviors and handling of incidents. It is important to set expectations of all members and include these in your constitution. You might have heard of the fishbowl analogy. Well, this is you. You are the fish in the bowl. Consider this. We are all immersed in our lives, much like a fish in the water in which it swims. Even a healthy fish cannot thrive in unhealthy water. What kind of water are we choosing to swim in? Questions we should ask ourselves is, who are we spending time with? Is the work you're engaging in inspiring to yourself and to others? Do you know your why? Why are you doing this? Why are you making these choices and actions? How do you care for yourself? And how are your decisions and actions shaping what others think of you? The answer to these questions all make up the water you swim in. Every choice you make matters, because as a student organization leader, everyone can see into your fishbowl. So it's crucial that as Red Raiders, we strive for integrity. We strive to portray our best character as if nobody is watching. And we strive to be the person our dog and cats believe us to be. Another topic that falls under our fishbowl analogy includes social media. When posting on your organization's social media platforms, it's always a good idea to consider the following 3 things. First, to consider the content of your postings. Always ensure that the content of your post aligns with the mission and purpose of the organization. It's wise to keep personal views and opinions off your organization's social media platforms. Social media is the easiest way to ruin your organization or your personal reputation. Always ensure that you're exercising caution when using social media for your org. The second thing to consider, which is access to your social media accounts. You should always be cautious about who has access to your social media accounts. With the transition of officers annually, it's probably a good idea to go ahead and change your passwords to your social media accounts. It's also recommended that rules and expectations about how to handle your organization's social media be written into the Constitution as well as your officers' duties. The third thing to consider is names on postings. When posting on social media, it's important to remember that for privacy and safety reasons, names and members as well as guests should probably not be included on your postings unless they have approved the use of their name. Additionally, that's why it's respectful to ask if they would like to have their name or photo listed in your social media. Topic 7. Adoption of a risk management policy. Ultimately, each organization should adopt a risk management policy not only to protect Texas Tech University, but to also protect your organization and its members. The organization's constitution and bylaws is a great place to develop your risk management policy. A risk management policy identifies possible areas of risk for the student organization, such as travel, sexual assault, student behavior and misconduct, and any other topic that we've reviewed here today in this training. The policy should specifically address what your organization will do to minimize or deal with areas of risk. The organization's risk management policy should include the Texas Tech University policies and procedures and should explain how the org is going to uphold the TTU policies and procedures. This risk management policy should also provide a guide to the organization in the preparation of planning of events, operations, and everyday functions. The Office of Student Involvement is here for you in case you ever need help with the creation of a risk management policy. Topic 8. Disability support. The CDC estimates that 5.7 million adults in Texas have ability. This is equal to about 24% or 1 in 4 adults here in Texas. Everyone can play a role in supporting more inclusive communities to help people with disabilities. It's first of all important to remember that we need to be mindful of fellow students who have disabilities here on campus. It's also important to remember that not all disabilities are visible. Events should always be accessible to all members and guests who attend. However, it is the student's individual responsibility to make accommodation requests from your student organization. Therefore, as a student organization, you should strive to make it easy to request and help affiliate with these accommodations. Under the American Disabilities Act, we cannot ask a person if they have a disability. Rather, the person is responsible for disclosing their disability. Only then, upon their disclosure, can we help to accommodate their disability. A great example of this is during our summer Red Raider orientation organization fairs, hosted by the Office of Student Involvement. Chairs are not provided for our organization leaders to help with overall flow of the room. However, if you need to request a chair for an organization member to sit during the fair because they have a disability, student involvement staff will be more than happy to provide this disability service for you. Student Disability Services can help students who have disabilities. SDS offers information on campus accessibility, disability awareness, sign language interpretation, loaning of assistive devices, tutoring, and priority registration. SDS also provides information regarding and a referral to a variety of campus and community resources. The Student Disability Services Office can also help answer any questions you might have about accommodating individuals with a disability. Lastly, we would like to point out that one of the best risk management plan tips is to plan ahead. Planning ahead provides you the opportunity to address issues that might pop up later during a specific event. The key to managing all types of risk is anticipating what could happen and organizing plans to prevent that situation from even occurring. The second general risk management tip we want to give you today is to keep your advisor informed about events before they are going to happen. Most organizations do not change advisors as frequently as they do officers, so it's smart to include the organization advisor in the planning of an activity, because the advisor is a professional individual who spent some time developing relationships across campus and can refer you to various resources here on campus. The advisor is your connection to Texas Tech and as a higher institutional educational system. They're here for you. Another important component is for you and your organization to train and educate the new officers in the organization who are charged with the planning of these events and who will continue to run the organization for years to come. A smooth officer transition is key to determining the success of your organization and avoiding unforeseen accidents. Lastly, our last tip for you today is to review the organization's constitution on a yearly basis. We think this is wise because inherent with the organizational's growth, there's going to be a need for adaptation of the constitution, so the document continues to meet the needs of the organizations, its members, and its officers, as well as the community of the organization it serves. Consistently reviewing the Constitution or bylaws helps to prevent violations of the Constitution as well. By investing in awareness strategies and focusing on any potential risks that are associated with the functioning of your organization, you've set up your organization for success. Chances are, if it doesn't feel right, it probably is not. Please note, to receive credit for this state-mandated training, you must complete the post-training assessment within TechConnect. If our office does not receive the post-training assessment, your organization will not be credited with completing risk management training. Because this training is state-mandated and we must report our compliance each January, we will not budge on training absences or the lack of submitted post-training assessments. Please ensure that you have successfully submitted the post-training assessment, and please ensure that your attendance in this training has been documented. I want to thank you today for being a part of this risk management training. If you have any questions or any issues with the training or the post assessment, please feel free to reach out to studentorgs@ttu.edu.